Martin Scorsese's new movie, Killers of the Flower Moon, is an adaptation of the novel of the same name by David Grann, telling the story of the mysterious killings of rich Osage Indians during the 1920s. The film will mark the first feature-length movie collaboration between Scorsese and his two frequent stars, Robert De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio. So you've got two titanic actors, arguably the best film director alive, and a source novel that has an incredible story. It sounds like a surefire hit, and surely that means studios must be climbing over each other for a chance to produce it, right? Yeah, well, that's what I said for The Irishman, a gangster film starring De Niro, Pacino and Pesci, and look how that turned out. No one wanted to make it, and the film would have headed to the scrap heap had Netflix not splashed the cash to make it. Anyway, you would imagine things would be less complicated with Killers of the Flower Moon, because it isn't a case of Scorsese needing state-of-the-art CGI to make his actors younger, so there won't be a need for a massive budget. It's got two big actors in it, and it is a period film, something of a western, Scorsese said, so it's not exactly going to cost 50p and a bag of Doritos, but still, you'd expect the film to be way less costly than something like The Irishman. However, about a month ago, I came across an interesting article about the film. I didn't make a video on it because the sources cited were really flimsy and it looked like someone was just trying to drum up some fake news to get a few clicks. But what the article said was that the budget for Killers of the Flower Moon was sky high, even higher than The Irishman, and Scorsese would be turning to Netflix to make the film, even though Paramount by that point had already signed up to make the movie. I thought it sounded quite ridiculous. I'm not saying the movie is going to be a low-budget indie drama, but as someone who's read the book, I cannot fathom why this film would cost anywhere near the bracket of The Irishman, Hugo and The Wolf of Wall Street. And even if the costs were high, the star power of Scorsese, De Niro and especially DiCaprio would surely put these studio heads at ease. But within the last few hours, this narrative has re-emerged, and it's been picked up by a lot of major news sources. Collider, IndieWire, The Independent, NME and others have picked it up, so the story is gaining traction. That being said, they are all quoting the same source, which is an article in the Wall Street Journal, one that I can't read because it looks like it's behind a paywall, and I don't know how reliable they are with movie news. Maybe you Americans might be able to enlighten me. But what they are saying is that Martin Scorsese's representatives are in talks with Apple and Deja Vu, Netflix, to produce and or distribute Killers of the Flower Moon because Paramount, just like with The Irishman, have gotten cold feet over the costs and have told Scorsese to seek out other partners. Paramount is still open to a deal that will see them participate as a financer or producer. Scorsese is also believed to have reached out to MGM and Universal. But here's the really interesting bit. Apparently, Killers of the Flower Moon is expected to cost an astonishing $200 million, which is an insane amount of money, and incredibly, is way more than The Irishman, which cost around $160 million, and that was a film that was considered way too expensive. And when I say $200 million, that's the minimum amount mentioned. The actual amount is apparently $225 million. We all know why The Irishman was so expensive, and Scorsese's Hugo was in a similar price bracket at around $160 million also, and that was a 3D film with loads of CGI and special effects. But if this story is true, something which I'm still highly skeptical about by the way, I just can't fathom where all this money is going. I mean, originally, it was thought that Killers of the Flower Moon was going to be a really small film that Scorsese was going to squeeze in between The Irishman and Devil in the White City, so small that some news outlets were even suggesting it could have been filmed while they were still editing and doing the CGI for The Irishman. But now all of a sudden, this 1920s Western murder mystery is set to be Scorsese's most expensive film by far, and I don't think anyone thought he would ever make a film more expensive than The Irishman, which most of us accepted was a one-off, high cost due to obviously the de-aging special effects. If it is true, Scorsese must have envisioned something really epic and a lot different to what we have in our heads. He's already said that the murder mystery aspect of the book isn't the main thing that attracts him to the story. He's more interested in how people can commit such atrocities as mass murder, and seeing as though he has apparently cast De Niro and DiCaprio in villainous roles, seeing as though they are such high-profile actors. Unlike the book, Scorsese might be telling this tale from the bad guy's point of view, which is a very Scorsese thing to do. But no matter how much I try and work out from what angle Scorsese is wanting to approach this film from, none of the scenarios call for $200 million. It's just mind-boggling. Devil in the White City was going to follow the story of H.H. Holmes and his killing in his murder castle during the Chicago Fair. That was going to be a very expensive film, because you'd need huge sets or a lot of CGI for the murder castle and all the stuff associated with the fair. Knowing Scorsese, he would have wanted to explore the psychology of a serial killer to put us in his shoes. He isn't directing this picture anymore, and something tells me he's incorporated some of his ideas with White City into Flower Moon, and instead will be exploring the mindset of these killers. And because he's pouring so much of that kind of exploration into Flower Moon, that might be one of the reasons why he isn't doing White City, because he'd be repeating himself. Maybe he's incorporating other elements also. Maybe originally Flower Moon was going to be a medium-scaled film, but when he decided he wouldn't be doing White City, Scorsese decided to transform his next film into some epic large-scale western. Anyway, don't mind me, I'm just thinking out loud. The film's price tag seems ridiculous, but I'll tell you what, the more I hear about this film, the more excited I get. At first I was mildly interested, but then Scorsese said it would be a western, and then he said he'd be focusing on the murderers, and now this thing about it costing double the amount The Wolf of Wall Street cost, it makes me think, just what has he got planned up his sleeve? But I still don't quite believe it. To put things into perspective, Avatar cost $237 million, and There Will Be Blood, another movie concerning oil set in the 1920s, only cost around $30 million. But at the same time, this news was originally reported about a month ago, and yet the rumour hasn't been squashed, it's only snowballed, so maybe there is something to it. There is also another argument though, that if shit superhero movies can cost this much money, then why can't an author like Scorsese ask for this much cash? The real question, if it's true, is obviously where the heck is this money being used? And please let it not be any more de-aging CGI. Maybe Scorsese is actually filming on the moon. Either way, it seems like The Irishman all over again, and with when they plan to shoot the film, you'd expect they knew what the budget was going to be, so something must have changed recently, surely. Did the filmmakers get some new idea or some new big scene that they wanted to incorporate? It seems alarming that at this late stage, the budget has soared and we may be seeing more delays just like we saw with The Irishman. I'm not sure where the film is at the moment. It was supposed to start shooting in spring, so now basically. It might have already started filming, but with the COVID virus going around, maybe production has been suspended, or delayed if it hasn't already started shooting. So what do you think about all of this? Do you think Killers of the Flower Moon deserves a $200 million budget? Do you think it's true? If it is Scorsese going out of his mind? Or are we going to see something spectacular with this film? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching.